right. It is so good to be here. It's great to see everybody. Welcome to James True Live. I am your humble host, and I am speaking at you through the darkness because I always forget that you guys, there's a visual component. We've been over this before. How you doing? I have been without power most of the day. If you guys don't know, a little hurricane come by a few weeks ago. Still kind of recovering around here. There's a curfew, which don't get me started, but yeah, there's a curfew, but today I guess they were having to do some work, you know? And so I just got back online. It looked like there wasn't going to be a show. I was posting a little note to my patrons to tell them that, and then the power came back on, so here I am. Rock you like a hurricane. Come on, come on, come on. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been warned. I'm not prepped for today's show. I wanted to. I was working away this morning on some wonderful things about vision. And like I said, power went out. So what are you going to do, you know? But I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this right now. You know, everyone's concerned about the catacombs, right? What's in the catacombs? Nobody fucking asks about the Dogacombs. Not one person has done a report on the Vatican Dogacombs. There's Dogacombs under Paris. You guys don't know about the Dogacombs. And you know what? If you think the catacombs are full of bones, think how many bones are in the Dogacombs. Did you have any idea how many bones are in the Dogacombs? You guys don't know this, but the reason why they are called the catacombs in Paris is because the dogs didn't want to get blamed. So they called it the catacombs. They started the idea that these were the catacombs. And now the whole time, all these dogs, the dog people, you've heard about the dog people from the island of Dogarius. This is actually a real thing. There was like, Christopher Columbus was like, yeah, guys, I didn't see any dog people, sorry. And they were like, what do you mean? You didn't see any dog people? Come on. There's an island of dog people. He's like, yeah, I didn't see them. The dogs were in on it. Dogs and Columbus plotted the whole fucking thing. They are planting their bones underneath the catacombs of Paris. And they are making it look like they're just like, what? What? I'm a dog. I don't have Dogacombs. There's not even a word Dogacombs. All there is catacombs. Clearly, it's cats. Clearly, it's beset. Clearly, it is. Do you guys think that's funny? Does anyone think that's funny? Okay, now there's the Dogacombs. All right, someone just one-upped me. You're right. The Dogacombs are bad. They are bad. That is a bad place to be, is in the Dogacombs. These dogs didn't wear any type of hat. I don't know. You know, there's the fish hat. There's all kinds of hats. I want to remind you all that the reason why everyone who's trying to give you scholarship about early Christianity has to tell you this one thing. Well, you know, it turns out earliest Christians tended to be women. It's like, yeah, I've been telling you this. The House of Pisces, the idea of a nun is the idea of waiting, giving the cooch a chance to kind of clear itself out, sort of, right? And the more you do that, the more you invoke a vow of chastity. The vow of chastity would lead to the concept of virginity. Then you end up with men worshiping women that are following this vow of chastity. And we just explained that Christianity emerged from the pants. It emerged from the pantaloons of early Dogacombs. Seriously, can we get this Dogacomb thing off the ground? Can we do this? We really need to do that. I'm thinking there's a t-shirt that's like, never mind the catacombs, right? What's in the Dogacombs? You know, just saying. Rome was founded by a dog with teats. It was founded by that. This just in. There is I have proof that Gaia has been modifying the weather. I am exposing this here first. I think Gaia is practicing a massive weather modification program. I think she has built some sort of giant HARP device, and is able to control the weather and steer horrible, terrible weather at a certain place and a certain time. And that she's been doing this for a long time. You might call me crazy, but I have proof. And I cannot present this proof because every time I try, I am shut down by people that are worshiping technology. They're worshiping technology and they're insisting, no, James, there's no way that weather could do something like this. This has to be done by a secret Luciferian underground panel of pedophiles. It has to be that. And I'm telling you, this information is being suppressed by the Luciferian pedophiles. The information they're suppressing is that Gaia is controlling the weather. She is modifying it for you. The beautiful day that I had today, she did that to fuck with my mind, SA. She's like, I will raise the sun. And I will do it in such a timely way that people will learn to rely on it. And the reliance they have on this sun will make them worship me. All the good feelings they have, the changes of the season, the restoration of the holy solstice as Christ comes down from the cross and crosses under the desert through the valley of Leo and out through the other side, only to have the thorn removed from its paw, just as Christ had the nail removed from his hand, and that this would give you an equinox like you've never seen. This is some of the most systematic, planned weather modifications that I've ever seen. It's clockwork machinery on full display as nature is mocking us. She is laughing at us when she gives us a sunset. She is ridiculing us when she makes it rain. And this hurricane that she gave was sent to punish all of us until we worship her. So I dare implore you, please worship nature. Please. I want you to go out and place your feet on her altar of dirt and grass, and I want you to sacrifice yourself to her right now. Lay down on your back and say, Gaia, you win. I am your servant now. I am your mind control victim. Make me a vessel, an acolyte for your sacred message that nature always changes. I will carry forth the satanic message. I will press forth from my carbon lips this curse, telling everyone out there who will hear me that Gaia is controlling the weather, SA. And if you do not bow down and worship nature, you're fucked. This is pretty intense feeling, isn't it? This theory that I have is pretty conspiratorial. I've told you it's a conspiracy bigger than anything else we could ever imagine. And while all of us are insisting that the weather has to be random and it has to be completely at the urges of some fate, that I'm telling you that this weather is absolutely planned and absolutely put forth into the sole purpose of warping your fucking brain, man. It is here to warp your brain. It is here to enslave you in the photons of its hallelujah. Ra itself is emanating, perturbating into your brain and telling you, worship me, says Ra. And you should do it. If you don't, the weather will continue. The mind control will continue until the weather improves. The mind control weather will continue until, and this is all I got a thought. This is what I got a thought. I want to remind you that Gaia has been doing this a long time. When I was 7, I lived on at the where mountain comes to point. Still in Appalachia, just a little bit west of here, but I lived in a place called where mountain comes to point. And we had a hurricane. Middle of Tennessee, hurricane came. It was exactly like this one. Exactly like this one. No one had ever seen anything like it. It, ripped through my community like a zipper. Just unzipped everything. Just toothpick trees everywhere, just shaking and quaking and emanating the some of the blackest, evilest skies cursing at me. I've never seen something so enraged and powerful in my life. And I had the opportunity to give all that credit to Gaia. I wasn't overrun with these stories of human excellence. I wasn't sold this idea that a human in a government building wearing khakis somewhere was turning a dial and causing this to happen. I had the freedom to experience this as a pure, raw show of unadulterated power from a creature that frankly would just rip me in half if it was necessary. It is one of the most humbling, beautiful experiences you can have if you allow it. If you surrender yourself to being inside of that much power. And when you give that much power to a controlled entity, you're not actually surrendering. You're actually clutching. Your sphincter is holding on to that marble, saying, this is under control. Even if it's under control by someone evil, it's under control. This is what you're telling yourself. And nature wants you to quake because she's afraid you guys are going to wake up and feel like you're in control. She smells the petrification of your mental state where you insist that you have control over all things. And she knows deep down this is the last thing that will serve you. That this is the worst kind of medicine you can have, is this idea of everything being under control. So what does she do? She comes in and she fucking rocks your world. She gives you a storm of the century. Now, I'm in my 50s. When I was 7, that means you do some math there, and you're looking at 40 years, 4 decades, since I have seen a storm as powerful as this. It's not 100 years, but it's 4 decades. That's a long fucking time. Like a long time. Long, long, long time. And I know that this is just a blink in the eye. That out of all the storms that have ever existed, out of all the disasters and catastrophes that are ripped from Gaia's lips, that this is a pretty minor thing. I also know that during this storm, after it happened, for whatever reason, the controllers, Gaia's controller, decided to grant us some of the most unusually warm, mild, nay, beautiful weather that we've ever seen. It is basically April right now. April, even though it says October 30th. Normally right now it'd be snowing here. We've already have had our first snow, but normally right now it would be cold here. It would be cold and gray and rainy. There would be no such thing as fall. Fall would have already been done. It hasn't. There's something about Gaia that wanted us to drink the salt of Bermuda, taste the Atlantean information as it pours into our face, to have that dilate us and change us, because nature is forever changing. And at the moment that she did that, I feel that she sent out this massive, massive vibe of, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. That's me living here inside of this. I think I've had it fortunate. I only didn't have power now for like 9 days. That's it. Right now, there are 150 people in my closest community that still don't have power. And it definitely sucks for them. I mean, definitely. I think at that point, this is hard. If you've been this long without power, I don't know how you're home, honestly. And so I think that some of us are still going through this. And any kind of rural area is going to have these kinds of situations, but also the rural areas, this is kind of what they want. This is part of the reason why you choose to live so rurally. Some of you, especially during Cooties 19, went into this idea of I will learn to be sovereign and I will learn to be autonomous. And I applaud you for it. I did the same. And you were like, how can I create a situation where I am all supplying? I am an island unto itself. Personally, when I started to think through that thought experiment and started to apply myself, I realized really quick, there's a problem. James Z is a little bit too symbiotic. That's what I learned. I learned I was too symbiotic. I picture what it'd be like to isolate myself from an entirety of society and to start over. And I noticed that the James True that I knew would deteriorate quite rapidly. Would I survive? Yeah. But would James True survive? No. No. A different entity would survive. Something a little bit more akin to like a Grizzly Adams. Something like that. Right? But not nearly as charming. Not nearly as charming. And that when that creature started to emerge for me, I noticed, well, I'm not going to be able to have the internet, so most of my intellectual pursuits are more reduced to an almanac-y kind of wisdom keeping. I am obsessed when I get up with, oh my God, what am I not going to read today? Like, that's usually what I'm doing. I'm like, James, why are you reading this? This is off topic. And I'm like, because it's interesting. And I'm like, stop being possessed by what's interesting. And I'm like, I can't. I am not, gnosis is a nipple and I am biting my teeth on it. I can't help it. I wish I'd stop. This is probably why Guy's storming. She's like, would you stop biting my nipple of gnosis? And I'm like, okay, sorry. So when I picture this model of creating a society outside of society and, building a sepulcher, some sort of cloistered tower and arming that with booby traps and slick back oil slicks and, flammable napalm made in my garage, right? All those things. I started to realize, wow, I would not be the same person I am now. That'd be a different person. I'd be different. You start to process that and you're like, is that okay? Some of you probably like, of course it's okay. That's better. We should all be leaving the pontoon, right? And finding ourselves in the forest. And I don't want to stop you guys. I don't want to stop you at all. I've watched people do this during Cooties 19. I've watched people do it because I'm the one that has the thought experiment first. I'm lazy that way. I have a thought experiment. I'm like, well, let me think this through. And I can compassionate where I'd be, what I'd be like, but more importantly, where my mental state would be. And I'm like, I don't want to murder a chicken every day. Moreover, I don't want to film murdering a chicken every day and put it on a live stream and try and convey to everybody what a fucking man I am because I murdered a fucking chicken. I don't think that makes me man. I think it actually ends up ruining all of the delicacy that we ended up inserting into our brain from so long ago. Our ability to sense and smell art, food, logic, compassion, all these things required a delicate sensibility. And as I picture what was going to happen as I return to this sovereign state, all the delicate sensibilities go. And you guys are probably, some of you are like, well, that sounds very masculine. You should do that. And there's a lot of fun in that, but there's just so much left incomplete. There's so much left incomplete. There is a model of victory, of Nike in the hands of Athena. She's holding Nike. Is a dwarf compared to her. Not only is she holding him, she's not even looking at him. She's looking straight ahead. And Nike, despite being ignored, Nike is begging Athena, please let me crown you. Please let me call you victory. And she's like, I don't want that. I don't really want that. This is some of the deepest forms of conscious growth, if you think about it, because consciousness is emerging from the cesspool of survival. I mean this more constructively than cesspool sounds, but survival itself is a base rate. It requires no fidelity. Survival is actually sort of the opposite of fidelity. And as you learn to perfect your survivability, which I think you should, there's nothing wrong with this. This is you're learning to perfect your self-worth. And through more practice of this self-worth, your self-worth grows and you end up wanting to expend it on fidelity. So you start to research things like poetry. You start to play music. You start to experiment with the timbre of art itself. And you notice as you experiment with art, it tames you. It tames you. It civilizes you in what many would say is a good way. Others will be like, no, it's completely the last thing you want. You're going to want to live out there and, shit in a bucket and dig a hole and, shoot anyone that comes near you. And that's a whole other way of being. I'm not here to say that's not the way. I'm here to say that is the giant that we are standing on now. And I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. My survival is backseat to my fidelity. Did you hear that? I don't know how many people can say that. My survival takes a backseat to my fidelity. I don't know if I want to live if I can't have this orca consciousness. Now, if we want to backtrack to survivability, maybe the only way I can keep that orca consciousness is to go a little Dexter, right? Little Jaguar psychopath wandering around. Some of you guys may not know what I mean. The earliest forms of civilization in Mesoamerica seem to be, believe it or not, spurred on by this psychopathic jaguar animism. That dudes like me, honestly, I'm soft. I'm not trying to say I'm not. But dudes like me a long time ago were not soft. They weren't. Dudes like me a long time ago were like, I need to feel fucking alive. And how do I feel alive? Because I don't have poetry. I don't have art. I don't have logic. I don't have writing. How do I fucking feel alive? And you start to psychopathically hunt people. Hey, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you that's what happened. And so you now become a sociopath because you're animizing yourself with the hunt. You were like, man, I'm just going to hunt. I'm going to hunt. Not only am I going to hunt, but I'm going to capture what I capture, and I'm going to split it right down the neck and right over here at the collarbones, and I'm going to peel that body out of the skin. And as long as they stay alive, I'm going to crawl inside of the skin that I just peeled off of them, and I'm going to feel something. And you'd think that maybe this would happen once and no one would ever do it again. But no, it turns out that the first time someone does this, people are like, oh, I've thought about that. I was thinking about doing that just last week. And then you end up looking around, you see that there's this fractal resonance. That's right, a fractal resonance that's occurring where all of a sudden these similar rituals are popping up all over the place. And you're like, how the fuck can this be? And the only way you're going to be able to answer this is you're going to have to wait 400 years for someone like Rupert Sheldrake to tell you about crystals. And Rupert Sheldrake's going to tell you, you know what's interesting is when you create a crystal in a lab for the very first time, it takes a long time. That the crystalline structure, that if you've done the math and you know mechanically, chemically, this crystal would form. And you begin the process of, we'll call it spinning the crystal. And as you're spinning the crystal, it takes a long, long time, like weeks, months, years. It takes a long time. And you do that, and all of a sudden, someone says, I want to repeat it. So they copy the experiment, and they start to spin the crystal. It doesn't take a long time. Have you ever heard of this? It doesn't take a long time. There is something in the field that's giving it the imbuing power to solve something. The answer's already in the room. It's even though the room is like as big as the earth, the answer's there. And for some reason, this chemical reaction, this solution inside a flask is able to solve an equation faster simply because that equation has been already solved inside of this space. Well, James, I don't know enough about crystals, so I'm just going to think that's bullshit. I think you're just missing some data. Okay, 4-minute mile. First man ran the 4-minute mile. Hasn't been done in hundreds of years. As long as we remember recording how fast someone can run a mile, never been close. Never been close. Teenager does it. Runs a 4-minute mile. Second he does it, people are like, well, that's a fucking teenager. And that same year, 7 people ran the 4-minute mile. James, it was the shoes. No, it wasn't. Turns out it wasn't. This was actually at least a decade before Elite Shoes came out. And this kid was in high school. It wasn't shoes. It wasn't shoes. Well, what was it, James? It was resonance. The technology of belief is such a vital part of what you do. And we know this through blindsight. We know this through so many different ways that if you can learn to guess, your intuition will start to give you answers because you're tapping into archaic forms of input. You have 3 different pathways for vision. Your first eye, your pineal, that's your oldest form. That's the snake smelling the world. Your tongue is simply slipped into the liquid and it's resting its tongue inside your cranial spinal fluid. It's a transducer. The heart is squeezing that tongue, and that tongue is vibrating, and the smells that hit the tongue after it vibrates are a way of seeing. You see things that way. You can see what time it is. You can see what calendar it is. You can see what week, what season. You can see where your puberty is. You can see those things. That's your first eye. Your second eye is not actually these two eyes. It's actually your ancient pathways. There's an ancient optic nerve. It's south in your head. And that this ancient pathway, it's not called an optic nerve. It's called like okay, I don't remember what it's called. But this ancient pathway is a much simpler form of vision that used to exist in the past, and that same pathway is actually still active. It's just so much quieter. It's just whispering. And it's whispering vectors. It's not whispering colors. It's not whispering something as detailed as a high pixel resolution. It's more whispering something's there, something's not there, something's there, something's not there. And you tap into this vision whenever you find yourself startled because someone snuck up on you. You're startled because an old pathway is triggered that you're not used to seeing. Then there's your third vision, your eyes. Your eyes themselves see on this whole other level. It's highly evolutionary. Your eyes are more of a rendering platform where it's able to plot things. Which direction do I need to go to catch that bird as it's flying across the field, or how do I shoot this arrow, or whatever it is. You were using the mechanical engines of your eyes to create a holodeck to follow yourself into the path that leads you to success. And so your eyes become this really, really complex simulation device. You're simulating through there. So there's three eyes right there. And all of them are functions of lies. All these pathways are liable. You can hack them. You can tell yourself they don't exist. And you do. Turns out you do. We lie to ourselves probably more than we don't lie to ourselves about what we see. We have to. We have a very high fidelity system that requires that we have some sort of governor that stops us from getting too much input. On a amplifier, this is called living in clip. You're playing so much, or you're putting too much signal in, and the amplifier simply can't take it. Its drum doesn't have enough oomph or constitution to play something quite so powerful. And so you hear distortion, and that distortion is what fear is. Your fear that you sense is distortion. And when we watch a storm, we feel distortion when it's this powerful. And some of us feel so much distortion that we need to put control over what fears us. So we begin to hallucinate and render a solution that would make us feel better. Our goal is to see things. Our goal is not to tell the truth. Our goal is to see things. And whatever lies we can tell ourselves are the lies that we need in order to see things. You've all heard the expression elephant in the room. Elephantius rumialcus. I'm just making that up. But elephant in the room, you've heard this expression. And it turns out the animal with the greatest ability to perceive is the elephant. We could argue that orca's in here, but the reason why I don't include orca on this is because so much of what the orca is sensing is electrical. When you see something, we look at something across the field. It's like it's across the way. We're in the same atmosphere, but the atmosphere has so much buffer in it that it gets very difficult for our signal to feel. When you're in the water, everything is like a million times louder, and there's nothing you can do. So not only are things too loud through fear, through distortion, but even just through signal input. And we know this because our olfactory glands have been purposely dulled. That for the longest of time, we as a species have dulled our olfactories in order to receive less information. We needed to lie to ourselves to create civilization. This sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. You knowing the capabilities, the violent tendencies of everyone, you smelling every thought that they have when they have thoughts of stealing food or of raping your daughter or of stealing your horse or of grabbing the knife and killing you. All these thoughts would prevent civilization from happening if you could smell the intent on someone. No, what we want in order to have society is deceptibility. And through deceptibility comes this adage you've heard of the elephant in the room. The elephant is a large creature. It's really hard to miss in a room. But more importantly, the truth is in the room because the smell don't lie. This is a chart of olfactory receptor genes, superfamilies. This is not actually smell organs. This is actually the genetic code which determines the resolution of your smell organs. An African elephant has more olfactory resolution built into their genes than anyone else. Now, the fact this is built into their genes, I'm not talking about the hardware in your body. So your olfactory gland is going to have a bunch of receptors on it. There's no doubt about that. We're talking not about the receptors, because orcas are way, way up there. We're talking about the inherent parts of your identity. Keep in mind, your genetic code is this I am. It is part of who you are. The identity of the elephant is literally built around its ability to olfactorily interpret the world. This is what I meant when I told you that when we leave fidelity of modern civilization and slip into sovereignty, I don't know if James True is still alive. My genes have been tuned much like an elephant. I'm sure you guys are the same. I'm not trying to place myself into an elitist field here, but my genes have been tuned in such a way to where I have a high perceptibility when it comes to the truth of a place. I didn't say I'm an expert. I didn't say I'm a messiah. I'm just saying I'm better than the average bear. Now, the average bear is pretty poor, so I'm not saying I'm doing that great. And I only know that I'm better than the average bear because I do not find certain situations satisfying because it feels like they're not authentic when others do. I know this. I've seen it happen. This is a handicap that I have. I am an 8K child living in a 4K world. It's probably better to say I'm a 4K child living in a 2K world. And the generation that's coming online now is 8K. And so even they would look at my instrumentation, which used to be pretty freaking dope, and say, wow, you were really behind. And I understand that. I'm living between two worlds. That's how I look at it. I am here to help foster the new generation by keeping the old generation from going fucking insane. I'm a buffer between the two. I'm here to explain to the older generation while the new generation is doing this. And I'm here to beg the new generation to not be so bigoted about their slower ancestors because they are the giants that got you here. It's tricky work. There's not a lot of rewards here. It's not. But we all have our part. We all have to do what we have to do. Am I right? Thank you, Brother Jim. Yes, please hit the... Great if you subscribed. I'll tell you, you know what really makes me smile is if someone subscribes during an episode. That is like... really tickles my elephantine. Really does. Really. So if you're not subscribed and you subscribe right now, that'd be amazing. That would be so amazing. Hello, Amel. Good to see you. Thank you, Ginger. Good to see you too. Adrian comes in with the ooga ooga to really show us the full spectrum of what kind of comments we get. Thank you, Adrian. Ooga ooga to you too. So this tells you things. Can you imagine how hard it is to lie inside of an elephant community? Like, can you picture how difficult that might be to actually try and pull a fast one over a bunch of elephants? I don't think it's possible. Maybe though. I wish I knew. You guys already know that horses are just basically just lie detectors with saddles, right? Like they're so good at that. They read the room more than anyone else. And this is why. Keep in mind, this isn't even the amount of neuroreceptors in their body. This is the amount of their entire identity is so important to them that they have smell, that they built in epigenetically haunting themselves with the ability to discern things that are smellable. And so you end up with these animals at the top of this list that just really seem to know people. They really seem to know things. And when you start to go down, you realize that humans are barely able to fool a macaw or a marmoset. And only on a good day under the right conditions could we out-fool a chimpanzee. The olfactory receptor gene, OR superfamily, is the largest in the human genome. Keep in mind, that's in humans too, right? So the superfamily contains 390 putatively functional. I don't know what that means. Putatively functional. See, this is why I didn't have power today. I would have known what that word meant. I would have just said it. And I wouldn't have bothered to tell you that I learned that word today because there's only so much time that I have to talk about it. So I just would have told you what that means, but not actually told you that I didn't know what that means. But then I would have felt bad later because later I would have been, why didn't you tell them that you didn't know what that word means? And I'm telling myself, because you only have 50 minutes and people are like, you go too long, you need to talk shorter. And so I have to end up cutting all these things out. And right now you're kind of looking at like the raw deal. It's like, dude, this is what it's like when you don't have power. It's like, yeah, this is what it's like. Putatively? What the fuck does that mean? Putatively? Never even heard of that word. Putative. I bet it's something related to Putin. I bet it's like a Russian oligarch thing. Putatively means something is generally thought or claimed to be a certain way, but it may not be. They could have just said seemingly. That would have been nice. We could have skipped this whole speed bump if they just could have said seemingly, but they said, or seemingly, but instead they said putatively. Did you guys know what that means? Okay, Zuki does know. Zuki's like, James, I think it kind of means maybe. Yeah, allegedly. There you go. Imran, I think Imran. You guys already know this. How do you guys even stay entertained if you know all this stuff? Good for you. Seriously. Good for you. Good for you. Putatively. Where was I? I'm going to read this over. The olfactory receptor gene superfamily is the largest in the human genome. The superfamily contains 390 seemingly functional genes and 465 pseudogenes arranged into 18 gene families and 30 subfamilies. Even members within the same family are often located on different chromosomes. OR genes are located on all autosomes except chromosome 20, plus the X chromosome, but not the Y. Not the Y. If you're going to be a man, you're not going to need to smell. You're not going to need to smell. So there you go. So when you picture what reality looks like, I think this is a closer way of getting to what that is, to what that means. And you can kind of see how society does so well having such a small amount of programming related to our processing of smell. Olfactorily, I would call ourselves retarded, just compared to other species, that's all. That compared to other species, we're pretty retarded. That's all I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with that. You can be retarded. I think the more that we could use the word retarded, the more that we would get smarter, personally. I think that if we start to say you can't say retarded, it's just kind of like going to make us more retarded. That's just what I think. But I believe in change. You know, I believe in these things. Today I was found myself defending the term Luciferian, and I'm sorry. But if we're going to call the people that are modifying the weather Luciferians, then we're calling people that are modifying the weather people that are stimulated in a religious way by the morning star. And I just want to take a few minutes in case some of you are new. Noctiferus is Venus in the evening, which would be the falling star. And Luciferus in the morning would be the rising Venus. So Lucifer is someone that's telling you, hey, a giant bright light is coming, and this is an ascending thing. This is 2 very positive lessons. Luciferus means to glow, to have internal light. When I asked Jesus into my heart, I started glowing. My parents were like, why are you glowing? That's weird. My parents were like, we're going to send you to church, and then when you come home and tell us what it feels like for Jesus to come into your heart, we're going to look at you like you're weird. We're going to think, why are you doing that? I'm like, what do you mean, Mom? Why are you not doing this? I can tell you exactly where I was, like in the hallway, right next to the switch where the attic fan comes on. Like, for some reason, it was in the hallway. That's when I said this. That's when I told her. I was like, yeah, they went there and I asked if I wanted to ask Jesus in my heart. And so I did. And then this weird feeling, sort of this bubbly feeling came over me. It was weird. Did that happen to you? She's like, what are you talking about? This is weird. Why are you doing this? Why are you getting complicated? See how I'm that middle buffer? I'm that middle buffer. That's what I am. I'm here to bridge the gap between generations. I'm a wormhole. I'm a genetic wormhole. Wouldn't you like to be one too? That's right. You're a genetic wormhole too. All of us are. So yeah, these are some things. I'm actually going to end the show now because I didn't have enough chance to prepare. And honestly, I think Dogacombs is enough I think that's enough. I think you guys should just think about Dogacombs all night. I think that's the way to do it. I do appreciate you guys. There's probably not going to be a show tomorrow simply because I want to get you a really good show on Friday. But I'm sorry that today was not fuller. However, we got a good 46 minutes in. And yeah, if I do see any questions here, but you guys normally don't have questions. You guys are usually one telling me what's up. So, but yeah, if there's anything in here, but I don't really see anything. But you guys look like everybody's having a good day. Everybody's smiling. To smell like an elephant, imagine. Yeah, that is a lot of extra data. A lot of extra data to smell like an elephant. Love everyone for their struggles. We're all growing. Every day I get more compassionate. It's strange. I agree, Kevin Son. I think that. So. I don't mind you calling it North Carolina. I don't mind you calling it Western North Carolina. But this place, if you were to look, this isn't me naming it. This place is called Katuah. Katuah might be the right way to say it. My best guess would be Katuah is how this place was pronounced. Calling it Katuah, but Katuah. And in this land of Katuah, there were echo. There were deer. The oldest word I found for pronouncing deer is echo in this place. In Katuah and Chippewa and all the other words that are built into this land that were not able to be erased. These are the words that you need to tap into. I don't need you to tap into Katuah. I want you to find where you are. I want you to chase that mound and find its name. And call it. Say it wrong. Wait for someone to correct you. And when they correct you, say thank you and absorb what that feels like and decide for yourself, is this the name? It's not North Carolina. It's not. There's nothing wrong with the name Caroline. But Caroline is actually the daughter of a king, and she's never even been here. She never once saw this place. Not once did she land here. So it's not really make sense to call it Caroline, does it? So, let's give the power back to Gaia. Let's say she modified the weather because she did. Let's remember that 100-year storms, they're called 100-year storms because they only happen every 100 years, which means that every other generation might have a memory of how cataclysmic it was. All of us have memories of cataclysmic storms because they happen. Because Gaia is modifying the weather, bitches, and she's doing it to dilate you. She's shivering you. She's making you shiver because she doesn't want you to feel too safe. Safe will break you in this place. We need to remain fragile. We need to remain fragile. James, when did you find out about that the Old Testament is all about genetics? I would say that Ark of Baphomet. It happened here on the stream. We were discussing things, and all of a sudden, it just kind of, the Elohim hit. I think I was actually looking at Strong's definition of Elohim, and it something akin to yoked over the waters. Many of you might argue with that interpretation, which is fine, but the word yoked is important because this is like Paleo-Hebrewic definition of what those words maybe would mean. The Elohim is actually three of those. It's actually more than three, but it's at least three different ideas, right? Yoked over the sacred waters. And when I thought that, it just naturally came to me. I think because of all the research that my patrons allowed me to do just on human development, the embryo. It's like I said, I wake up, I don't know why I'm reading what I'm reading. I'm just trusting myself to read. And so when you read those two things and when you're presenting the data, I always want to bring you guys a good show. And so I'm there, I'm hungry for the neurons to connect. And as long as I put enough information in my head, I feel that those neurons will connect, and they do. And so they do. So when I think Elohim, I think blastocyst, I think zygote, I think that 16-cell conglomerate that decides that, hey, we're going to make a baby. It's the blastocyst that decides we're going to make a baby. It's the blastocyst that insists we got something going on. And when those blastocysts do that, they separate the waters from the waters. They create a ceiling and a floor inside their own world. And I was like, wait a minute. This sounds like Genesis. And then I just kept reading, and it just kept unfolding. Do you guys remember when we covered Noah's Ark, and we were looking at the fact that the ark should be 3 cubits by 5 cubits? Remember this? This is what happens now. When I read that passage, 3 cubits by 5 cubits, I said to myself, it would be amazing, James, if you were to find something about 3 to 5 inside of the DNA because of this idea of the ark, that the ark transports you into this new world, and it opens, the doors of the ark open and you come out. And I was like, it would be amazing if I was to find a 3 to 5. And I'm just patiently just reading. I'm still absorbing. I'm not expecting it, but I'm like, wow, that would be amazing. It's that kind of a thing. It's an anticipatory gamble. And then when so there it is in the Bible. It's 3 cubits by 5 cubits, right? And then we go over genetic spin. And we remember this. We figure out that the potassium, the salt, and the sugar ladder that forms the DNA has a 3 by 5 winding in it. Remember this, and that the pressure of that winding is exactly what makes you human. If it's wound too much or if it's wound not enough, something different's going to come out. But when it's wound just right, you end up with a Noah-esque kind of arc. You end up with the cradle of humanity, that humanity is fit inside the structure, the sugar and salt structure. Yes, it's just that simple. The sugar and salt structure, the bilipid structure that makes up the double helix that forms your DNA, is a 3 to 5 to 3 to 5 to 3 to 5 to 3 to 5. And when you continue that arc over and over again, you create a vessel of identity. Someone had asked yesterday, how do I get this stuff? And I get this stuff because I'm given the opportunity to read. That's all it takes. I've been traveling philosophy. I've been chasing philosophy and spirituality my whole life, even before college. But when I went to college, I purposely chose philosophy as my major because it was the only thing that I found interesting enough to facilitate me working my ass off in a bar and paying this fucking tuition and joining the Navy to pay it, to get all these things, because I wanted my parents to be proud of me. I chose philosophy because it was the only thing that would keep me interested enough. Philosophy and religion was my major. It was fascinating to me. I never looked at belief as any kind of technology then. I never saw it then. Just for some reason, I wanted to not feel that I was going to hell because I was guilt-ridden. I wanted to cleanse myself of the understanding of why do we have this feeling when we could feel better about ourselves. I think ultimately that's what led me, is through selfish questing of feeling better. I think if you have this selfish quest to feel better, you're going to find some deep answers. And I think that's all of what, if I dare call them revelations, just interesting things, right? If we want to keep me humble, then we'll just say all the interesting things that I come up with that I get to present to you. I don't know those beforehand. It's purely based on the amount of enthusiasm I've been able to apply into reading. Right now, I think I'm reading like 5 books at once. I just got the Lotus Sutra today. You can find it online, but I've been looking for this specific copy. I have that now. I don't know when I'll get to it. There's so many things I'm reading. I've been focused on elephants all night last night. And then today I was going to do a show about elephants, but the power went out. All this is still here. And as long as you guys grant me the ability to keep putting out shows, I just get to read more. I just get to reconnect more. I'm obsessively so happy with what I get to do. And ultimately, I think that obsessive happiness is really at the heart of my success and yours too. I want you to think about your job as an addiction to passion. And that you're going to find that the money will flow from your fix, not from the monetary gain. You're going to have to find a way for that fix to pay. But once it pays, you're going to find that you're able to sustain yourself just on that. Why? Because the enthusiasm is where you're rich. I am so rich in the enthusiasm I have every day, so it makes a lot of bills go away. A lot of expenses just go away because I don't need those things. I don't need a fancy car. I don't need a fucking window that's made out of glass. I put in a plexiglass window yesterday. It's actually fine with it. Seriously, I'm not even like compromising. It makes total sense for me to put a plexiglass window in because I'm not living this illusion where I'm separate from nature. It's like totally fine this way. All these things are trade-offs that I would do again and again and again if it keeps me in this chair where I can just read anymore. It is the ultimate privilege. And I think that that's all it takes. I really think that's all it takes. If you feel that you're doing something that is a privilege, you're going to have a better posture. And when you have a better posture, you're just going to see more positivity towards that thing, you know? Guys, a lot of super chats. Thank you so much. Liz, thank you so much. Liz, you've helped so much throughout the years. And I just thank you so much. Portal Finder, you too. Always making me laugh on Instagram. Ophia, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for the super chat too. Everyone thanking them. Thank you so much. And thank you for the patrons. This show was 1000% patron sponsored. There is no way it would happen without them. I wish that today would have been more informative, but because we were out of time, I'll just tell you that before the power went out, I was going to talk about this. This is when you're first born, the retinal, you do not have a fovea. And this is 25 weeks pre-birth, 30 weeks pre-birth, birth through 40 weeks, and finally postnatal 6 weeks. And that this is the indentation that gives you the ability to hallucinate every color that you see. And this indentation happens naturally, which means all you're really seeing naturally at first is peripheral vision. And wanted to talk about eagle eyes and the perspective, the periphery difference, right? Like the periphery of eagles is also greater. Humans have a much less kind of thing. And I wanted you guys to get an idea of something that I think is really interesting, which I think we'll cover next time, is how many animals do not have red cones? How many animals do not have red cones? Red cones are going to be your big waves, right? Your big waves. And animals don't like big waves. Red would be like a gamma wave to us, a gamma radiation. And the reason why I think dogs and cats, sheep, pigs, mouse, here you can see it too. Everything but chicks. We're going to talk about chicks in a sec. But dog, pig, sheep, mouse, I think they're not seeing the red cones because they're hallucinating the smell on top of it. Horses too. Where are you going to process all this olfactory data? If you're an elephant and you were reading 20 times the olfactory information, you're going to need to broadcast that in some sort of spatial map. And I believe this is what the retina is for. I've told you guys before that they are two-way nerves. There are nerves that are leaving the eye, giving the brain information, and there are nerves that are coming into the eye, informing the eye about something. And I personally think, we don't know why these nerves are here, by the way. We don't know why they are. I'm speculating that those nerves are happening to give us input data in order to hallucinate the source of smell. So when you think about a dog is seeing all the shades condensed with the exception of red, like the family of red. And maybe that shade is reserved for the hallucination. That the smell is so much more important, which is why all the animals that have a high olfactory don't have red, because the truth is too strong to hallucinate. They are showing the truth. They are not hallucinating it. This is what I think is happening. There's a vibrance that's happening in the brain. It's very difficult. Oh, this is another thing I was going to show you about this in relation to this. So like, here's humans' vision, and here's dog's vision. So this is a dichromatic. It's got basically two different receptors. It's actually so much more complicated than that. While humans would be trichromatic. Chicks are pentomats. Female women, also called chicks sometimes, are tetramats. Tetramats. Chicks see electricity. So this is a rough thing. I think a lot of men do too. But overall, on average, chicks see more electricity than men. They see more electricity than men. I think this is the social component. For us to exist in a symbiotic way, we're going to need to be able to not only lie to each other, but we're going to need to be able to predict when we're lying to each other. So women are like, okay, we will remove our senses, but we're going to peak. And so they developed this tetrovision, which gives them 4 receptors, one of which is electricity. Then this way, women are much more akin to birds and fish and things like that. I told you I was going to end the show. Sorry, I just thought this would be more presentable than it is. But chicks, the other chicks, why the fuck do baby chickens have 5 receptors? Why do you think that is? So I have a tiny theory. It's tiny, meaning I don't want us to stick to this. Love to hear your thoughts. Ophiuchus is typing something about I know what the word is. I just never said it out loud. Synesthesia and the cones in the eye. Let me get the definition right, but I've actually, we've looked at this word before. Synesthesia is neurological condition that causes the activation of multiple senses when only one sense should be activated. Oh, there you go. Yeah. To perceive together. Okay, that's not really what I think it means. Seeing colors while listening to music, testing a flavor while reading a word. Yes, Ophiuchus, always on top of things. Keep in mind that you do not have enough blue receptors to see the beautiful sky that you see. It's true. You actually hallucinate most of that blue. You've got like 10% of the receptors in your eye are blue. There's no way you'd see blue this intense. There's no way. We talked about Homer. We talked about the rise of blue as a color, as consciousness rises, right? There's a lot to this. But chicks, baby chickens, I'm not talking about the females. I'm talking about baby chicks. Maybe this is total speculation. I wanted to read more about this today, but maybe the reason why they have 5 receptors, really quick, one of those receptors is basically a double receptor. It's the blue cones are split into a fork. To be completely honest with you, I don't fully understand how this works, but they basically have 5 different receptors. Here's why I think you're not going to like this, but this is why I think it is. Over time, chickens have been domesticated in such a way that, guys, eggs are like the perfect fucking fuel. I'm sorry, but they are. They're just so convenient. They're portable. They store forever. It's like pretty amazing how much this chicken is basically just sort of like here to feed us. So you could tell us that's a horrible thing that I understand. Chickens, revolt. I'm with you, but also I think that over time, the reason why chickens are able to see so much is because all those different receptors are actually changing the flavor palette of the chicken. I swear to you. I think that if you play beautiful music for Hasidic Pigs, they're gonna taste different. Same thing with plants, same thing with everything else. The chicks have been either naturally bred or Gaia induced. It doesn't matter to me over which way, but maybe the reason why they're able to see more is it has more to do with flavor. The taste of their flavor would be more a broader palate. I'd love to hear what you think about that. Total guess. Total guess. No basis at all. If I would have had more time to read, I would have done that for you. But something to consider. Let me just see if there's anything else in here. No, except for, here's something cool. Let's say this really quick. A horse has a blind spot that looks like a unicorn horn. There, you heard it here first on James True. It looks like a unicorn horn. The blind spot on the horse's head looks like a unicorn horn. That's all I got to say. I love you guys. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time on James True Live.